There are lots and lots happening, but now it's paper talk. Over the next few minutes or so, we'll be taking a close look through the sports pages and see what's making the headlines. Now, a guest this morning, our broadcaster Kweku Afari and the Guardian's Manchester football correspondent Jamie Jackson. Good morning to both of you. We're going to start in the Sun, who speculate about a potential Premier League record bid for Jude Bellingham and also the future of Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta. Let's start with that one, Jamie. Who do the Sun say wants the Arsenal manager?
Well, it's Barcelona. Arteta was a player there, but I don't think he ever actually played for Barcelona. He was, sort of at the club when he was a very young man. And yes, obviously Arsenal are flying high in the Premier League. He obviously knows what he's doing. Mikel Arteta, he was Pep Guardiola's assistant, and when he was there as the Manchester football correspondent, I was given to understand that he was very good for Guardiola. He actually sort of stood up to him and had his own ideas. So yeah, Barcelona are in for Arteta. But I mean, the question is a little bit. Obviously, it is the Barcelona. He is Spanish, but would he leave Arsenal for Barcelona at the moment? It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I would also say that with Arteta at Barcelona, it's a sense of unfinished business. Obviously, he was there, like Jamie touched on, graduate of La Masia. And in Spain, he never made an appearance for the Spanish national team. So for him, I feel like there is a sense of maybe going back to Spain to finish what he didn't when he was there as a player. But at Arsenal, he's been given the keys to the kingdom. He is the manager of a team that's top of the Premier League. He's been allowed to bring in the players that he's wanted to. He's got rid of the players that he didn't necessarily agree with. So at Arsenal, he's at a position or at a club that have given him everything that he needs as a manager. But you can definitely see him in the future managing Barcelona at some point.
Well, his stock is high, Kweku, and so is Jude Bellingham's. And the Sun also talk about a Premier League return for him. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Ian Tuckey writes in the Sun that Liverpool, Chelsea and Manchester United are in the hunt for Jude Bellingham. Those clubs believe that the fee will be around 90 million, specifically 87 million pounds, but the fee could be anywhere close to 130 million, which is alarming for those sides because if you look at the history of football, it's littered with expensive, I don't want to be too harsh here, but flops or players that haven't reached that potential. When you maybe look at Jack Grealish, who hasn't hit the heights of Man City, Antoine Griezmann, who Barcelona signed for excess of 100 million, Coutinho, João Felix, who's Dembele. These are players that had high expectations and went for over 100 million and haven't lived up to the billing. The only players that maybe have are Neymar and Mbappe. You can maybe even debate Neymar. And those are two players that are going to go down as all-time greats in football. So if you do believe that Jude Bellingham is going to become an all-time great, you do pay the 130 million. But that path it is littered with jeopardy because we've seen in the past that players who've gone for that much money haven't lived up to the billing.
Well, let's hope he wins the World Cup in a month or so's time. Anyway, on to the Times, and they write that samples of conversations between referees and VAR could be made available to supporters. All right, maybe a bit of danger in this one. Jamie, tell us more about the story.
Yeah, it's sort of billed as the same kind of idea as in F1, where fans or viewers, etc., will get snippets of conversation regarding decisions on VAR. During the match. Interestingly enough, Howard Webb is coming back next month to be sort of the first referee's chief. Now, he's been working in Canada and the USA and has introduced some measures there, to MLS, etc. There's like a weekly VAR kind of breakdown video that he's been doing, for example. And I believe there's also been some post-match interviews with referees. Now, that latter thing will not happen here at the moment. And the article, it's a very interesting article, also says that the referees and officials feel that they will need some media training if they're going to be mic'd up and basically not exposed, but, sort of we're going to be hearing what they say. I think it's an interesting idea. And so, yeah, when Webb comes back, he's going to start looking at sort of notions like this. And that's kind of where it stands at the moment.
What I'd say is that anything that brings clarity to to match-going fans is a good thing. We have to understand that football is a spectator sport, and people have to know what's going on, especially if you're in the stadium. And Jared Gillett, who's the Australian referee who's now officiating in English football, has worn a microphone during an A-League game when he was refereed in Australia. And that was lauded, and it brought about this conversation of should referees in this country be mic'd up. Obviously, there's some trepidation from their side of things in regards to being mic'd up. They have to be media trained, like Jamie said or alluded to. But what I will say is that if you think that micing up referees is going to quell anger from fans regarding VAR, then you're sadly mistaken. I don't think the issue is the referees or the clarity to match-going fans. I think the issue is the referees who are actually behind VAR and the quality of officiating in this country. So despite the fact that this is a good idea, I still think there are going to be problems with VAR going forward. Yeah,
Jamie, I'll be honest, there's alarm bells ringing in my head when it comes to the amount of abuse referees already get. Do you think this will help, or do you think it'll add to it?
Well, I think, as you know, Kweku says, there's always going to be controversy. I think it's a good idea. I think, you know, one part of football is it is show business, it's entertainment, and this is going to add to that. Obviously, it has to be done the right way. But yeah, I don't really see it's a bad thing. It's sort of more clarity, more transparency. And, you know, obviously, as we all experience, you can be at a match and not quite know, A, what's taking so long, and B, you know, why a decision was taken with regard to VAR. So I don't really see it as a bad thing, to be honest.
Right, there's a great headline to finish in Paper Talk with. It's in the Daily Mirror. It says, Cool and the Gong. Right now, when I saw the headline at the time, I heard about the headline, sorry, I hadn't seen the picture or who it was about or anything, right? So, Kweku, please explain, who's the Cool, what's the Gong?
So Cool is Kalidou Koulibaly, the Chelsea centre-back, and the Gong is the Premier League title. And basically Darren Lewis writes in the Mirror that Koulibaly still believes that Chelsea can win the Premier League this season. You can either call it refreshing optimism or delusions of grandeur, but it speaks to the belief instilled in this Chelsea side by Graham Potter. I'm a Chelsea fan myself. It felt like the sky was falling when Chelsea lost against Brighton on the weekend 4-1. But we have to remember that was Chelsea's first loss under Graham Potter in all competitions, previously being unbeaten in the previous 9 games. And Koulibaly is a man that he's won trophies in his past, whether it be domestic trophies at Napoli or the African Cup of Nations with Senegal. So he's a man that has belief. He's been a leader at his previous team. But Chelsea are far off it in the Premier League this season. I think Chelsea's sights need to be firmly set on finishing in the top 4 and then going from there. Obviously, Arsenal are the runaway leaders at the moment. We know how strong Man City are as well. But also, penny for the thoughts of Koulibaly, who's probably looking at his Napoli side in Serie A, who are flying high at the top of the table, qualified at the top of their Champions League group. So maybe looking back at that with some regret. He's had a stop-start this season with Chelsea. But I think Chelsea's sights need to be set on top 4 as opposed to winning the Premier League title for the moment.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Kweku. I mean, when I saw this, it's a great headline on picture. You know, I had a look at the league table, and I think they're 10 points behind Chelsea. I thought, maybe they have a couple of games in hand, but no, they played the same amount. So, but on the other hand, fair play to him. He's pugnacious. He's you know, he believes in his team. And tell you what, if it was to happen, a massive if, then you know he'll be able to dine out on it. But I think top 4 is probably more realistic, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe look ahead to next season on that front. Jamie, Kweku, thanks very much for this morning.
Cheers.